What we're looking at here, again, in Mind War is not so much dealing with propaganda, because that's pretty transitory, and that is what we're trying to do. Rather, we're trying to, as I said, get at the electrochemical bases of human attitudes that dispose you in a certain way. Take the example like brain waves. Okay. People are generally familiar with the four basic kinds of brain waves. You have alpha, you have beta, you have theta, and you have delta. And the differences of these waves, of course, take place at different dispositions in your head. So alpha waves are where your head is at when you are in a relaxed, positive, and friendly state of mind. A good example, for example, is when you are watching TV.
Yes.
Or if you're just relaxed and in a pleasant mood. Beta are the waves that your brain is in when you are actively and aggressively thinking or working on a problem. That's when you are most mentally active, but it's also when you're the most nervous and the most brittle. So when we're trying to calm people down, we don't want them in a beta state. We want them in an alpha state. Theta is a kind of an interesting one, because when I was doing extensive research into work in the Soviet Union that had to do with their research in brainwaves, the Soviets discovered that theta had a very strong correlation with ESP phenomena. So it's a little of a strange area there, and it has to do with high emotional states and also with some somewhat metaphysical things like ESP and PK and so on. And that's a whole other discussion in itself. The final one, delta, has to do with extreme relaxation and deep sleep. Now, the importance of these things, again, from a Mind War, I was talking about these things as one of the psychons that we use in Mind War. All of these frequencies take place at the sub-audio level, meaning that when these frequencies are being projected or broadcast, you could be in a room full of alpha, for example, and you wouldn't hear a thing. Or you could be in a room full of beta and not hear a thing. These things are all below your auditory level, but, and this is the important point, the human brain resonates with these brain waves if they reach it externally, which they can not just through your ears, but through your skin, through your skull, any medium, really. So if you have a bunch of grouchy people, to simplify this, and put them together in a room, and you want them to start cooperating and agreeing on something, first thing you do is switch on an electromagnetic generator and dial it to alpha and blanket the room with alpha. And without any of them really being aware of what's happened, they'll start relaxing and turning into a more positive frame of mind. That's just one of the examples. We could go into that with, for example, the area of color. Now, we tend to think of color as something that you like this color, you like red, or you like blue or green, and that's my favorite color. And we also think of it socially, that different nations, for example, in the West, we think of black as being sort of a funerary kind of color. And white in China would be a funerary kind of color there, and so on. Well, how many colors do you think you actually see? You only see 3 of them. Human beings are what are called trichromats. We have sensors in our eyes for red, blue, and green. And everything else that you think that you see is actually your brain combining different sensations of red, blue, and green to come up with all these other subtle colors that you think you know all, that you see all the time. And as a matter of fact, there is a sort of a funny story here, because in 1954, there was a film adaptation of H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds made, and the Martians in that movie had large eyes which were red, green, and blue. That happens to be something that looked good on a monster, but it also happens to be the way your own eyes function. And if you were to disassemble your television set today, or in the days when they still operated with projector guns in back, you would find 3 projectors back there, red, green, and blue. That's for that same reason. The research that we have done in PsyOp into these colors have led us to the very interesting discovery that the colors by themselves will trigger a different reaction in a human being, which means that if you are exposed to red radiation, and again, we're talking about the electromagnetic spectrum here, so it's not just that you're looking at something red and that you have a visual response to it. We're talking about the actual radiation, the wavelengths of this color from the EMS itself that are coming into your brain. The red wavelengths incline you towards anger, and again, it's not because red is bloody or anything like this. It's just how red makes you angry, blue makes you intelligent, calm, right, and thoughtful, and green is relaxation. So once again, if you have a room full of people and you're already blanketing it with alpha radiation, you also want to dial up the blue. So what you see here is that as you're turning these electromagnetic and electrochemical cycons and bringing them into play, and there are about 12 or 13 of them that I go into in the book, what you're doing is to address the mental state of mind of everybody who's subjected to these. And what you're trying to do is to get them to stop being angry and stop being combative and become as intelligent as they can and as cooperative as they can. And what's also funny about this, you're not just doing this to what you thought were the bad guys. You're doing it to your people, too. Most of these things are very omnidirectional, and most of them cannot be stopped, because this kind of electromagnetic radiation is very, very penetrating. We are literally at the point now where scientific investigation is breaking these things down into actual parts of the electromagnetic spectrum and seeing what happens when you dose a human being, so to speak, with these areas of electromagnetic influence. Magnetism is another one of those interesting ones. Magnetic frequency, or fMRI, is now a very interesting area of research. They've been doing it at Yale and some other universities out here, and probably several over in Britain as well. And
Stanford, too, you said,
sure,
right?
And magnetism, which you normally don't think that you're subject to magnetism. You know, your body isn't built of iron or steel or anything, and you don't stick to anything when you touch a magnet. But you actually have a sensitivity to certain kinds of magnetism. You do have some magnetic materials in your body that are very fine and very delicate. These are, you might say, a sort of a human counterpart to what some birds have when they're using magnetic fields to navigate and so on. Bear in mind, of course, that we're talking again about the human body as an electromagnetic machine. And if you look at an electrical wave in the electromagnetic spectrum, you might say that it's going up and down, and what's going right and left is the magnetic wave. So for every electrical wave, there's a magnetic counterpart. And this all, not to go too far afield here, but these are the sorts of things that were getting Albert Einstein fascinated when he was trying to come up with his unified field theory, when he was trying to take all of electromagnetism and figure out that this was sort of the machinery of the entire universe, and that somewhere in here you could find things like gravity. But in any case, when you look at magnetism, you're looking at, again, a form of radiation that is different from electrical radiation, but it's still a wave phenomenon that way. And we, of course, are surrounded by it all the time. We live in a sea of this stuff. You know, we have it everywhere we go today. We're in a very electronic society. And magnetic waves and magnetic fields, of course, are much more pervasive and much harder to stop in some ways than just simple electrical broadcasts. So we, of course, are sitting on a big magnet here called the Earth, which has a huge magnetic field to it. There are solar magnetic flares and so on that go on, And there's an entire interesting field of research that takes all of this discussion about climate control and relates it to switching magnetic fields that are in a constant state of flux. But bringing this down again to mind war. In about 2010, as I discovered, MIT neuroscientists discovered that application of magnetic fields to the right temporal lobe of the brain by means of non-invasive technique called transcranial magnetic stimulation, or TMS, can temporarily disrupt an individual's ability to make judgments based on previously learned morality. This is really quite something, because we tend to make judgments, and again, this is that pattern thinking thing. We have a moral overlay on whether we think something is good or bad from what we've learned. This is the moral decision-making process by which we judge goodness or badness in things. So you can see how important this is. Entire religions are built on the ability to proclaim what is good and bad. So if you can take an electromagnet and stick it next to somebody's head and switch it on, and suddenly you sort of poof this out of his decision-making process, you're going to have a human being who is faced with making decisions without there being any moral qualities to them whatever. Now, this would be very good if you're dealing with very antagonistic moralities, like, for example, you see now with the extremism in things like Islam, where you don't want these intense moralities to govern people's decision-making. But you can also see how dangerous something like this, because morality is also the basis for our kind of underlying humanitarianism towards one another. We may have all kinds of hard and fast reasons to want to exploit other human beings or do things with them or to them, but it's our morality that sort of holds this in check and says, well, you can or can't do this because it's not nice, and it's not human, and it's not compassionate, and it's not moral. So what we have got here is a very double-edged kind of sword in this new magnetic technology. This field, generally, if you want to look for it, if your listeners want to look for it, look up functional magnetic resonance imaging, or fMRI, because this is the area in which you can not only, as I said, influence human morality, but believe it or not, and this is sort of really at the extreme edge of science these days, through fMRI, you can actually develop pictures so precise of a human brain's processing that you can create visual images of what that person is seeing or imagining. This is mind reading, guys. This is the kind of thing that used to only be there in science fiction stories and people, telling stories about what you were referring to earlier, about remote distance viewing and so on. This isn't operating over distances, but we have never before come to the point where we can actually touch somebody's head with sensors and read the person's thoughts and see what they are seeing. That's what fMRI is taking us to. And again, it's a very fascinating field, but also, as you can probably imagine, a very precarious, a very dangerous one, because once you start to be able to read somebody's thoughts, then you're really invading their personal privacy and what they try to conceal. Imagine if you're an intelligence interrogator and you were to use an advanced fMRI device on somebody that you're interrogating. It doesn't matter whether they're trying to lie to you or not. You can go right into their head and see what they're thinking, so to speak.
This call is being recorded. All right, hey Tierra, this is Aaron. This is my co-host, and she's been studying gang stalking for a while, and it's been going on with her for a while, and she's been studying a lot of my strategies and my methods, and we sort of have talks here and there on how to get through gang stalking. She's been working her way through a lot of obstacles. And Aaron, this is Tierra, wonderful woman. She's been going through gang stalking herself. She's helped a lot of people in the past with involved with counseling herself in different areas of counseling, and so it's just wonderful we can all get here together tonight and go over this. You ladies want to introduce yourselves to each other?
Yeah, sure. I'm Aaron, and I'm 32 years old. I'm from the Midwest, and I'm a TI.
Well, it's nice to meet you, Aaron. I'm not gonna give up too much information about my identity, but I do reside in Florida, and my name is Tiara. And right now, it's like it's I'm currently still dealing with it, so it's a bit stressful. It seemed like they turned it up a little bit after I talked about suicide prevention, stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's marvelous work you've been doing in suicide prevention. And Tiara, I want to ask, what do you think about the whole concept of people who are hit with gang stalking moving to less populated areas?
I'm that's what I'm going to do. I don't know the difference yet on how I feel because I haven't moved yet. But when I do move, I definitely would tell you about it. Right now, I have a good feeling about it to get out of the less, inner city, not where there's too many, people around, more space, quiet.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. Aaron, Aaron, you've been going through some things with gang stalking. How do you feel about that? Like just getting away from it all, getting away from areas where there's more people involved with gang stalking, like,
Yeah,
hiking, camping.
I've noticed being out in nature and in the wilderness is a break from it all.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
a good break from it all in a way.
right. What do you think would happen if all three of us were together in a less populated area? Do you think, I mean, they would just cut the gang stalking back by half, or in your ladies' minds, how do you imagine something like that unfolding?
Well, when you're in
I
the, well, yeah, go ahead.
I saw that there was a special on these men who all moved together into a house, and I don't remember the results of whether or not they were more gang stalked or not, but they were doing a special on a Vice video. I think it was Vice. I'm not sure. But go ahead, Tia.
To be honest, I don't know if it will increase or decrease because it's for some reason they have a way of getting to friends that are around me, roommates, just stuff like that. So I don't know. I want to stay positive about moving, but I can't really say that I guarantee that it would even, decrease it. I don't know if it will be better safety wise. I don't know because it seems like the individuals know how to get to people that are around me. It's either through work or people that are residing with me. Um, I feel like family. So I don't know. It feels like for some reason they could always find me, even when I go out of state on vacation or something. It seems like there's always a society around.
Yeah, almost like some sort of cult or something like that.
Yeah, like I don't know, like I want to say like a male fraternity or I want to call it like a brotherhood or something.
Right.
And they've gotten to people in your past, Kiara. You're saying that they've actually gotten to people that you were close to, and manipulated their perception of you to get them to.
Yeah, definitely. They would go and not even they. I think it was one person that was doing more of the talking. I
Mm,
think it was the person that I was with for the 4 years that I was dating that was actually helping out with stirring the perception people had of me. And the thing is, like, they'll even go to the extent of using fake text messages email, fake conversations to stir the perception of you. So I had problems at work out of nowhere. The same exact patterns at work. First, they'll start out with like some form of harassment, covert harassment, and everybody seems to know what's going on except you, but you know that everybody has like the same cue, but you know nothing about it, but you could just sense it. And it happens at every job. And all of this started happening when I was studying a different religion for my social work degree.
Right.
And that's when it all started happening. Next thing you know, like rumors at the place started flying out of nowhere. Like, where did all these rumors come from? And that's where it really started. That was the first start of the slandering of character and stuff like that.
And doesn't it feel like it's a monopoly of harassment? Like, it seems like every single aspect of your life they try to move into and put real estate there.
I don't even know, like, what I felt like. I don't know if it was because I was a different culture, if it was because I wasn't from where they were from, or I didn't think like them, but I was just there studying. I didn't know if I asked too many questions, because the religion, sometimes people frown at you asking so many questions about the religion, but how are you supposed to know about the religion unless you ask questions? Like, the way Americans study is different from how they study in other places, I guess, from what I was getting, because they were getting, I guess some people were frustrated at the fact that I was asking so many questions about what is certain, like, surahs, hadiths, and what do they mean by that. So I just, that's where it all started. Like, I never been followed like that until I started studying the religion. And I don't know if somebody wants me to, like, think it's them that's doing it, but what else am I supposed to believe? You know, like, it started with me studying the religion.
Right, and in a sense, I can definitely see that. It's like your intelligence qualified you to get harassed in a way. Like, thinking and asking questions was all it was needed to do it to you, but at the same time, like you said, it appears as it's a networking through those people. So the root cause of it, or the root intentions, might not even be coming from them, but just going through them.
Yeah, and it sucks. It really sucks, because it's like it's like you get to the point where you're so traumatized by certain events happening. It's like you keep telling yourself, no, it's not happening, but you could clearly see that all the signs are there.
Yeah, and like Aaron has to live the thug life just to ride the bicycle down the path every day, right, Aaron?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I got my car hit. When my car was hit, somebody called my job, knowing that I couldn't really talk about the situation because of regulations. But how is your car going to get hit and totaled the same way as mine at the same time at the same day, unless you were calling to taunt me?
Right. You said that they've been running into your car and like, trying to create accidents for you in plain sight.
No, I mean, no, that wasn't me. That. But my car did get hit and totaled.
Yeah, so no, you told me but I remember you saying that there was one instance where you saw a guy in a van, and later on, after it looked like it was the same guy who hit you in the car or something.
I don't know if that was me.
You said, did you say you saw him?
No, that wasn't. That had to be somebody else. I think you got it confused with somebody else, because there was a time where it wasn't a van, it was like in a silver car that was just like mine, and 3 men were staring at me when I got home.
Okay.
And I act like I didn't see it, even though I knew I saw it. I was like, did I see that or did I not see that? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
okay,
it wasn't
a
van. It has to be somebody else's story.
No, it probably, if it wasn't a van, it wasn't a van, but I just remember the first time we talked, I remember you talking about how you had seen one individual on 2 separate occasions, and something involving like a car accident or something, or if not an accident, something with the car, or,
Yeah, it was the individual staring at me. I knew they looked at me. It's just I was telling myself that they didn't. Like, I was telling
Right.
myself that didn't happen.
Right. Sort of like.
Because I didn't want to believe that people were following me. Like, I didn't want to believe that.
Yeah, you don't want to believe that.
And then that's when
saying?
yeah, of course. And then that's when the ex was telling me, I have people following you. And I'm like, it's to a point where I didn't believe it, and now you're actually telling me. It messes with your head. So
Yes, it does.
it's ridiculous.
I mean, a lot of people do that, though, when it comes to, like, trauma, and especially in my studies of trauma-based mind control. Things will happen to people, and people will purposely block it out just to protect themselves. And so...
Yeah, definitely.
Right. So it's not even your fault. It's just something you naturally do. And, you know, I think with gang stalking, when people first start recognizing these things happening, you know, sometimes when it first happens, they think they don't really notice it, and it starts to be, they think it's a coincidence. Then it goes from the area of a coincidence to either you notice these things or you kind of block them out and you don't want to notice them. You sort of put a filter up. But then when you begin recognizing it as patterns and you recognize there's structure to it, like noise campaigns are noise campaigns. Entry, exit. You go to a gas station, two people leave the gas station, and two people enter, and they're all wearing a particular color. And you start to recognize, wait a minute, these people are stalking me wearing, like, colors. There's pattern to the colors, and their lights are on in broad daylight. And you start to notice all these things, and then you begin to see them all the time, and then you're like, this is huge. This is happening everywhere I go.
Yeah. And you start to notice, like, it's like the certain time, like when you're walking into a store, they'll get on their phones and they'll call the individual. Like every time you walk into one of their stores.
Or it'll be a number that, like, you don't even know, like some number
that keeps calling you.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be 1-800 numbers, like car dealership places, or, you know, questionnaires and stuff. Have you ever noticed that?
It'll be more like advertisements, but yeah.
What
the
kind
same
of things
exact advertisement.
What kind of things do they advertise?
It's in Spanish. It's always saying "hola," and it's in Spanish, and it's like my block app for some reason is not even getting to block it anymore. It's different numbers all the time.
Right. That's amazing that you're noticing that stuff, because most people, they always think it's like coincidence, like it's too much. Like last night
I thought it was a coincidence for a year. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh no, it's okay. I was talking about this last night with somebody, and it's not even that it's happening. Sometimes it happens only at specific times. Like sometimes I go to a store and it's only a certain kind of number that calls my phone at that time when I'm going into a particular store. And, you know, maybe 2 times is a coincidence, but when you're getting to like 20 times, you know what I mean?
Wow. See, I wasn't on point like that. Like, it took me years to figure out that this stuff wasn't just a coincidence. And then the person admitting that they were following me, having people following me.
Yeah, you told me that there had been some admittance by people who were participants in it. And, you know, that's very interesting that you were able to gather that.
Yeah, I think they got to a point where I knew that I was at this mental state where I knew if they even told me, I wouldn't believe them either. I'll be in denial about it. That's how my mental state was at the time, because that's how messed up it was. It was like I wasn't believing it. It was like I gaslight myself. Like, oh, that never happened. I don't remember.
Yeah. Yep.
About what, if you could rate yourself, would you say you're definitely not in the confusion stage anymore? You're definitely not confused. If you are confused, it's probably very minute compared to the overall picture. You got a handle on this. You know what group stalking is, what gang stalking is. You know what it looks like. You know, we've been talking for a while, and you've been online looking at it happen to other people through YouTube and blogs and websites, I'm sure. I was going to say, do you think that they've entered into an area of sensitization? Because they definitely have used the distraction stage, which I speak about mostly emotional connotation, trying to mess with your emotional state, mess with people in your life that you're close to. They definitely have been doing that. You're past the confusion stage, they're more intimately attacking you. You think they're in a sensitization period where they're trying to, in a sense, mind control you to this stuff?
I don't even know anymore. Like, I'm such in a state of like, let me get out of here, that
Right.
I just don't even know. Cause like, I just don't know. With the whole the problems with like the relative and saying that she was given drugs and stuff like that, like, just it. I just want to get out. So I don't know. I probably, when I move and I'm in a more quieter area or so, I could probably think about it. But at the same time, I'm always gonna think that they're still around. They're gonna find some way. It's either gonna be my next door neighbor or somebody. Like,
Right.
I'm just gonna feel like they're gonna keep eyes on me all the time, and I don't know why. Like, I don't know why. I actually, like, I didn't do anything to any of the individuals, but at the same time, I don't know if it's really them or if they want me to think it's them.
Right, right. And I know with Aaron, like me and Aaron have been speaking a lot in the last couple months, 2, 3 months maybe. And we shared a lot of emotional support for each other. And I've noticed
Mhm.
that when the gang stalking comes along, it sort of prevents family, friends. It sort of creates isolation. And
Yeah, I cut friends off quick.
yeah, do you feel like there's been a lack of like love or support in your life?
Yeah, completely. Like, every relationship I get into, something prevents them from going further. And that's when I find out that there's been some type of slander or some type of um false narration of my character, or something that was given to them to cause them to, like, not talk so often. And when I see them acting sketchy like that, I cut them off immediately because I don't want another asset for them to be used. So I've definitely been like cutting off a lot of people.
I can
I just
relate
don't know
with
how they
that.
be getting. Yeah, and you could tell by my voice, by the way I talk. I can't even like stay. The way I used to speak, it used to be fluently. I used to just speak fluently. Now it's like I'm always thinking while I'm talking, and I can't even talk straight sometimes. That's just how bothersome it is. So I don't know if it's like trauma based, but you could just hear my voice. My memory has been bad because you're always thinking about somebody possibly having some type of underlying plot or something.
Definitely. What were you saying, Aaron?
I can relate with what she was saying about cutting people off.
You've been cutting a lot of people off, or some people off, since this has been happening?
Yeah, like if I suspect any kind of just, I don't know, I feel like you can read people really well if you can feel their vibrations off of them and you know how to read body language. And
That's
um
true.
a person can say a lot without having ever said a single word. And if I feel in any way, in any kind of negative connotation towards a person, I don't make an effort to make amends with it or try to explain it to myself. I just cut them off. And whereas before, I would be like, oh, maybe they were having a bad day, or, maybe they got some stuff going on in their life. Maybe they didn't mean it. Maybe it's just a coincidence they said that or did that, or, and I'd give them another chance. But anymore, I don't find myself doing that.
That's what's happening with me. I don't even explain myself because I feel that there's
Yeah.
no need to. Because I feel like if
No,
you're gonna do that anyways, you already gained whatever perception you wanted of me before you even knew me.
exactly.
So I'm like, I'm not
Exactly,
even gonna
Tierra.
bother.
Exactly, Tierra.
Yeah, yeah, and it's weird because I at first I felt like it. I got to a point where it's like you could feel people's vibrations so much. It's like you picked up a whole sixth, seventh sense or whatever. Like you just immediately know over the years. They don't even really have to say much. You just watch their actions towards other people.
Definitely, definitely. I can see by somebody's body language and their movements, if they're if they're doing gang stalking. I got a good friend of mine. I grew up with him when we were little kids, and he grew up and eventually he began selling drugs and stuff, right? And so some of my friends went to college and got good jobs. Some of them ended up selling drugs and stuff. And he told me, he said he knows if somebody's undercover. And I said, what do you mean? He said, I know if they're an undercover. I can tell by the way they look. And he got caught selling dope, right, crack, and the bills were marked. Informant, undercover, brought him some marked bills, purchased the dope from him. Then after they purchased the dope, the cops came, busted him, and they found the money on him, and it was marked, and he actually ate the money. They didn't get it on him. He ate the money before they got it, and the cops were pissed, like, where's the money at? Blah, blah. He ate the money. So he beat the case. They never found the money on him. But he told me, he said, I know if somebody's an informant. I can tell by their body language. I can tell by the way they look, by the way they act. I know if somebody's working for the police. And I remember when he used to say that, I never sold dope, so I didn't understand where he was coming from on that necessarily. But when I started getting gang stalked, I could tell if somebody was stalking me by the way they act, by the way they walk, by the way they look. You can tell if what they're doing is unnatural. It has a certain stigma to it. By the way they drive their car and they turn their head, I can tell that they're doing something that they're not proud of or that they don't want to be doing, or they're trying to be sly and be cool. Out of all the people who've been gang stalking me, only a small percentage of them are real naturals at it. Like I would say out of 100%, only about 8% of them can do it at real ease.
Yeah.
And so I know I can tell. I can just tell. And then the closer you get to the person, the more you know the person, the more shady it gets. And you can tell that it's like they're almost like to me they look like people on strings. Have you ever noticed? Am I alone on this one? What do you and Aaron think? It doesn't look like that to you? Like their movements look robotic, like they're like string people or something. I don't.
Like they have no like they have no conscience.
Yeah, like they're just.
To me, it's
people.
like people who are on. A lot of them to me look like they're people who are on some type of drug, in my opinion, and they just didn't have any type of conscience. They were just like doing what they were told or something, or finding a thrill out of it at the same time.
Well, they're criminals, or at least they're working for criminals. They're stalking people, and a lot of them know exactly what they're doing, and they don't care. Just kind of like the Hitler Youth. The Hitler Youth used to go around and terrorize Jewish people, and they got away with it, And
and then like when people have like the mental health side effect of it, where they're actually starting to have, problems where they want to seek counseling and stuff, it's like you can't trust a counselor either, because the counselor may sell their notes to them secretly about you, or might backstab you in some way. So it's like you can't even trust a counselor. You have to call like some type of hotline or something where nobody knows you, and you won't get the same person if you call them again if you need some type of help to talk to somebody about what's going on.
Right. Aaron, was it you that was telling me, like, you were familiar with a scenario like that with somebody? That, like, they give away the was it? I'm thinking it was you. I'm not sure. It might have been. It's probably somebody else, but I think you were saying that.
Yeah, I don't know that they give out the information, but everything's in a system. And I'll just put it to you like this. I mean, any doctor's office you go to, it's all women in the front office, and women are just chatty Cathy's. You know what I'm saying? HIPAA doesn't stand a chance against a bunch of chatty women in an office. So, I mean, they're going to sit there and they're going to talk, and, you know, anybody can eavesdrop. I mean, I've heard that go on just myself. So, you know, who's to say they didn't have someone make an appointment directly after yours so that they can sit there and listen?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Most
I don't know about them. I don't know about them selling. I've never. I can't personally say I know about them selling information, but does it happen? I'm sure it does. There's a law for a reason.
They do buy information because there has been stuff that the gang stalking people have used against me, like subliminal type stuff or certain things, and there's only certain people on the street level that would have known about it. This is nothing documented. This is like shit that happened, like, excuse my language, ladies. This is stuff that happened, like, you know, years ago on the street. Like, there's no reason why anybody should remember it now. The only people who would know about certain stuff are people who were involved in it. And it was not even nothing nefarious, just like different women I talked to, different things that were going on the street. And the gang stalking network would find out about it. And I was like, man, somebody was paying somebody for information. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah. Did her phone drop? Tiara, are you there? Tiara?
It's
Her
me,
phone
I
might
think.
Her phone might have dropped.
Can you hear me?
It's showing. Okay, I can hear
Hello?
you now. Yeah, are you there?
Sorry. Yeah, I'm here.
Well, they cut your line or something?
I don't know. I mean, we talked early today, and it kept shutting off.
I know it. Wasn't that crazy?
Yeah.
What do they want from our lives?
I don't know. I mean, I never had really a phone issue like that before, so I'm trying not to give them, like, too much power and say it's them.
Yeah. What do they want from our lives? But, you know, I mean, but see, the court system and the hospitals and all that stuff, they run all that. The criminals run all that. So, you know,
the hospitals and the court, you said?
I said the court systems and the hospitals and the educational systems and the churches and stuff, the criminals run all that. So anything that goes through a hospital or goes through your counselor or a psychiatrist or something, they're going to know. Because the mental health clinics are involved with this gang stalking stuff.
Yeah, there can definitely be a criminal element to any walk of life.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. The criminals run everything. But yeah, that's amazing, Tiara. I can't, you know, the concept of you getting away from it and moving on with your life and getting out of there, that's a really courageous sign. And Aaron can tell you.
Well, I don't know if me moving away from it, getting away from it technically, because I don't know yet. Because they're everywhere, all over. So.
Well, I don't think you can move away from it, me personally. I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but that's just my personal opinion.
You know what? Okay. I've been getting gang stalked for 3 years. And the only time where it's really quieted down is when I went out in the woods. That's the only time it's ever quieted down. And I thought about it. There's no streets in the woods. There's no sidewalks in the woods. There's no houses in the woods. Where there's not people or where there's less people, there's going to be no to less gang stalking.
I don't know. It's kind of scary as a woman, just to be out alone like that.
Yep.
Right.
When people are following you. So that's what I was thinking. Like, I want to be around people, just not as many.
Well, that's what gang stalking is all about, is keeping people in constant fear. Keeping you in fear of, you know, trying new things. And I hear women, you know, 70% of people getting gang stalked are women. The majority of the people I speak to are women. That's the fear that comes up a lot. I don't want to be alone. And so that's why we've been working on the money bomb and getting people together in person and getting people to go camping, go hiking. In a situation where people aren't alone, you're not going to be alone in the woods, but we can get further away from the population and have some time to actually breathe. Where when we're walking, we don't have to see all these cars with the brights on and, walk into a store and people coming and going that are gang stalking and stuff. We can have some time to just think and get back to our lives and refresh. 3 weeks of that will be enough to really get a handle on what's going on, do the courses, talk about what's going on, come up with new concepts, new structures. And it's not a thing where I've been pushing for people to like go hide in the woods for the rest of their lives. I'm saying there's nothing wrong with getting a vacation. When people are stressed out at work, they go on vacation. Well, when you're stressed out being stalked every day, you get mentally exhausted. And it does mess with your mental functions. And anytime somebody's mentally exhausted, there's nothing wrong with having a breather. There's nothing wrong with going out and having a good time and going into a natural setting where there's people who care about you and support you and love you and want the best for you. I mean, that's healthy to me, And, I've done it alone. Like, I used to go on these long walks when I was studying gang stalk, and every time I went into the woods, it was a much better experience. And I would go walking and I would go hang out, and sometimes I'd bring somebody with me. There's one time there was this woman I was dating for a couple of months. Sometimes I'd bring her with me. But a lot of times I just go by myself, and it would be such a relaxant. Like sometimes there literally wouldn't be nobody coming in there. No, the gang stalking assignments. One time people would follow me out there on the trails, but another time nobody came out there. But if I had been walking down the street, it would have been numerous people, numerous cars, all the people in the stores. You see my point?
Yeah.
But a smaller community in a smaller town, it doesn't mean it's gonna, because you can live in a small town. Like there's people who live in New York City that still don't get as gang stalked as much as I do. And I live in a small town in Michigan. So, there's people that live in big cities who still don't get gang stalked a lot, but then there's people who live in big cities and might get gang stalked more than me, depending on their level. But my level's pretty high. Like, so, but, but it's a testimony, Tiara, that you're actually trying something different. And at least it won't be the same people. At least if there are people messing with you, at least it'll look different.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, some people, like, after looking at some of the interviews, like, some people have it far, it seemed like the notch on them is really high. Like, they're crying on YouTube saying that it is ruining people's lives, and it really is. Like, I could just tell, like, they're on a whole different notch.
Mm-hmm.
Even though mine is still bad, it's like, damn, some people really do have it bad. Like, I think I'm at the stage where I could just flat out ignore it now. I just have to go focus on my mental health healing because it felt like I've been narcissistically abused or something. Literally.
Right.
Like, Aaron, like, how did you mentally, like, feel, like, when you're all in the high of it? Like, did you feel the same way?
I felt absolutely terrified, and I in the thick of it, I was absolutely terrified and helpless and hopeless, and but after a while, I don't know, I learned to deal with it in different ways. I came up with different coping mechanisms, and one thing that I reach out to is creativity. I like to just be creative, and it takes me away from all the thoughts. Sometimes I'll really get into something I'm doing, and I'll notice that it's quiet. It's quiet.
Yeah,
just for
trying
that,
to get into the
just
present
for that
moment.
second. Yep, just for that second.
Yeah, I try to do the same thing, like arts and crafts or something, or coloring or something, because I kind of got to the point where I realized it's like they can't really do much more except petty things, so they can't really do much more. So if I just not care, I mean, how long are they going to keep doing it if you don't care about it anymore? I just have to get some mental health healing now, because it messed up with my speech, my communication. I can't talk to people without overthinking. I stop all the time in my sentences in the middle. I can't finish. Like, just mentally, it just messes with you. So it does mentally do something, but that's their whole intention. I just happen to find that out when it's kind of, I want to say, oh, it's too late, but it's not. I can still heal from the situation. But find out later.
I don't know. I think we might have lost Jamil.
No, I'm right here. I was just listening to you two talk.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely a hard thing to grasp, and one of the things about it is sometimes it changes. Like, they use different sorts of themes. Like, the people that are gang stalking you more right now, when you move to, depending on who you interact with when you get there, they might be watching to see who you cling to more closely, and then try to get that person to stalk you more. Like, it's sort of a thing as to which, you got to constantly, like, sort of be on your guard a little bit. Like,
yeah, that's what I'm worried. That's what I was worried about, because it was the person that, like, I'm in a relationship with this person for 4 years, and the whole time they were the ones doing all of the stuff behind my back. They were leading a lot of it. So it's kind of like you don't want to get close to people. It was like another form of, I need to isolate, not get close to anybody.
Yeah, definitely. No, you don't want to you want to be careful of who you associate with, because that's why I try to stick to people who get gang stalked. That way it's a whole different scenario.
Yeah.
If somebody's not going through it, then they don't have too much concern over you anyway.
Mhm.
So, to me, it's just like, why even bother? Why even bother with people? Whose phone is that, Aaron?
No.
Oh. It sounded like a car peeling out, didn't it? Didn't that sound like a car peeling out? Aaron.
I pulled the phone away from my ear because I didn't want to hear whatever that was. Sorry.
What did it sound like? Oh, you didn't hear it? Yeah, all right.
I heard it and I didn't like it, so I pulled the phone away from my ear so that I didn't hear it anymore. Yep.
Her phone died, I guess. They ran her off. So what did you get out of that? What was she saying?
I'd like to talk to you about that, not on the group thing.
All right, hold on. I'm going to call you right back, all right?
All right.
I'm going to call you at your number. All right.
Okay. Bye.
All right.